Hello AAT, this is 4.3, solving rational inequalities. So inequalities, we're going to see greater than, less than, or greater than or equal to, and similar to what we did in section 4.2, but one important part we've got to pay attention to. First of all, we're going to always work with 0 on one side of the inequality, because we know if something's greater than 0, then we're going to have positive numbers. And if something is less than 0, we're going to have negative numbers. So 0 is that borderline between the positive and negative. So it's easy if we first try to make everything equal to, greater than, or less than 0. We're going to find the x values that make the numerator 0, where the expression equals 0. The numerator equals 0, the whole fraction equals 0. We're going to find x values that make the denominator 0, which is where the expression is undefined, and we're going to place these values on the number line to determine the intervals that satisfy the inequality. Okay, so one thing that's super important, we want to do not multiply a whole inequality by something with an x, by an expression with an x. In other words, in our previous section, to get rid of fractions, we multiplied everything by the common denominator. We can't do this with the inequality, because if this, for instance, was a greater than or equal to, when you multiply both sides by a negative number, it flips this inequality. And since we don't know if x or 2x is positive or negative, it might have to flip that. So we're not allowed to multiply the whole equation or bring something to the other side by multiplication. Instead, we're going to get everything on one side equal to 0 and get common denominators. So first thing we need to do is we're going to work with 0 on one side. So we need to subtract this 2 to the other side. So we have x minus 2 over x plus 3 minus 2, and I'm going to give a little space here. We have 0 now on the right. So all I did was subtract 2 over. Okay, so now I need to make it one fraction. So I need a common denominator. Right now this is 2 over 1. So the common denominator is, of course, the x plus 3. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by x plus 3 of this 2. Make sure you're distributing the negative. So let's think of that as a plus minus. So now I have x minus 2 over x plus 3 distributing on top, minus 2x minus 6. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 3 is minus 6 over the common denominator. So now we have just one fraction. We're going to keep the common denominator like when we add fractions and combine like terms on the top. So x minus 2x is negative x, and negative 2 and negative 6 is negative 8. So since a fraction changes sign if the numerator or the denominator changes sign, we're going to find those points that make the denominator and the numerator equal 0. So if the numerator equals 0, I'm going to get x equals negative 8. And if the denominator equals 0, I'm going to get x equals negative 3. I'm only doing this to find these important points to put on a number line. So negative 8 is less than negative 3. Make sure you put them in the right order. And we're looking for the sign of the fraction negative x minus 8 over x plus 3. We're trying to see where is it positive or where is it negative. Okay, so I always like to plug in 0. We've done this before. 0 is up here. If I plug in 0 into the whole fraction, I'm going to get negative 8 over 3, which is a negative number. Just like before, this is going to alternate every time unless you have two of the same factors there. Like if two things, if you had x plus 3 squared and an even amount of factors on one of them. So now let's think just a minute. This was not equal to, it's not less than or equal to, so both of these have to be open. Not equal to, we have a greater than expression. So both of these are open. We knew the denominator had to be open because you can't ever have negative 3. You can't have 0 in the denominator. So this was already open. But since we can't equal 0, if we equaled 0, the numerator would be 0. The 8 has to be open too. So now we got to think, do we want the positive area or the negative area? Well, this was a less than. So we want the negatives. Because of that less than. So my answer is going to be down here with the negatives and up there, which we know to write in interval notation is negative infinity to negative 8 open union 3 to infinity. Yay! Remember, you can always plug in numbers. I could plug in like 10 and see that 10 would give me, what, 8 over 13 is less than 2, so that does make sense. I could plug in a couple points in each interval and make sure I'm right. Okay, example 2. Okay, first thing, we want to get everything on one side, so we're going to subtract the 2 over. X over x minus 6 minus 2 is less than 0. Notice I'm leaving a little space. I need to get a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply the 2 by x minus 6 to the top and the bottom of this new fraction. I'm going to make this a plus minus to make sure I distribute the negative 2. So now the common denominator is x minus 6. Distribute here, x, negative 2 times x, negative 2x, negative 2 times 6 is 12. Combine like terms on top, and we got negative x plus 12 over x minus 6. Now we put all those important points on the number line. We're looking at the fraction negative x plus 12 over x minus 6. Sometimes it helps to write that next to your number line so you know what you're plugging into. What makes the numerator 0? Well, positive 12. And what makes the denominator 0? A positive 6. So I'm going to plug in 0, which is down here, into this whole fraction, and I'd get 12 over negative 6, which is a negative number. It will alternate as long as you just have one of each factor. Now this again is less than, it is not equal to, so both of these are open. We're looking for less than. We want the negative because it's less than 0, and negative numbers are less than 0. So we're going to have this and this again. Negative infinity to 6, open union 12 to infinity. Okay, number 3. Okay, this one's a little different. Got a denominator on each side. Do not multiply everything to get rid of that denominator. So you can't multiply both sides of inequality by x. So we're going to subtract this big fraction that's on the left over. So I'm going to do a plus minus x over x minus 1. Remember, if you subtract, you can just put the subtraction on top. It's now less than 0. We need a common denominator here. Okay, so to get a common denominator, the common denominator is going to be x plus 1 and x minus 1. So this piece needs the x minus 1. And this piece needs the x plus 1. So I'm going to write that out, make sure I don't make any mistakes. I've got x times x minus 1 plus negative x times x plus 1. You can't just leave it like that. You got to combine like terms on top. So we're going to have to distribute, then combine like terms. And go up here. X times x is x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. Negative x times x is negative x squared. Negative x times 1 is negative x. all over the common denominator, x plus 1, x minus 1. And don't foil these together. We want these to be in factored form on the denominator. Here, x squared and x squared is nicely going to subtract away. But negative x and negative x is negative 2x. So there is our one fraction set less than 0. So now we can go to our number line. So we're going to put on our number line all the important points for negative 2x, x plus 1, x minus 1. So what makes the numerator 0? That point would be x equals 0. So that's an important point. What makes the denominator 0? Negative 1 and positive 1. So set the numerator and denominator equal to 0 to find those points. Okay, again, it's less than 0. So we're going to want our negatives. Everything is open because it's not equal to. Okay, so I can't plug in 0 on this one because 0 is one of those important points. So I'm going to plug in just a big number. If I plug in 10, which is somewhere on the right side of the 1. If I plug in 10, I'm going to get negative 20 over a positive times a positive. Negative 20 over 11 times 9, 99. So I can tell it's going to be a negative number. Be really careful, because if you miss your signs, you're going to miss the whole problem. You know, if you want to, plug in another number and check. Okay, so again, it's going to alternate because I don't have any of the same factors occurring twice or 4 times. So I want the negative, so I got this area and this area. So negative 1 to 0, union 1 to infinity. All open. All right, nice job. Okay, take a little break, and then we will come back and do this other side.